We have with us Ms. Shanti Ekambaram from Kotak Mahindra Bank at this point. Many thanks for joining us, ma'am. The roadmap has been set, interim budget. What are your first initial thoughts on the budget?
So it was a vote on account, so not much was expected. But what's interesting is really the continuity and a roadmap. First and foremost, fiscal deficit that everybody was looking forward to. A roadmap for 4.5% by FY26 has been laid, which is good, while it will be 5.1% for FY25. Second, the financial inclusion agenda, which is whether it is food, whether it's housing, whether it's security. I think the financial inclusion agenda continues strong. This only means that the consumption pattern, and there will be more consumers for India to grow, but it would also address people at the lower end of the pyramid. Third, I think the outlay on infrastructure, 11.1% up at 11.11 lakh crores. The government had started this infrastructure, particularly roads, they extended it to railways. I think if India has to move, it has to have infrastructure. And the slew of measures that have been announced. So financial inclusion combined with infrastructure will ensure every corner of India is accessible. Okay. Interesting point on tourism, particularly spiritual tourism. We just saw Ayodhya and the kind of interest that is generated. We've seen how much tourists Varanasi has generated. I think India is on the cusp of a tourism boom. We of course have to improve our infrastructure. Nominal GDP of 10.5%, a little up, and gross government borrowing a little lower because of the buoyant tax receipts. So I think it's positive and seems to two things: continuing agenda and control. And focus on fiscal deficit and not just fiscal, proliferation.
You mentioned the 4.5% fiscal deficit roadmap, particularly for the banks. How will it impact, if you could give your view on that?
So it's like this. Fiscal deficit is really revenue and expenditure. If the revenue receipts grow, and the finance minister said that since 2014, direct tax has trebled 3 times. The idea, and you've seen how GST, it has gone from some 80,000 to now 1,85,000. So this formalization of the economy happened. As the revenue increases, the government can perhaps spend. So while the fiscal deficit may look lesser, the actual expenditure, because it's a percentage of the revenue, can be the same or higher. I think the government needs to continue to spend on infrastructure and basic social things like healthcare, water, sanitation, and I think they will continue to do that.
In terms of housing also, for the middle class, that was also announced. On that front, how do you think, what kind of an opportunity are you seeing for banks?
What is important is in what form this housing benefit is going to be given. It can take the form of subvention. It can take the form of, some interest rate benefit. It can take the form of tax benefit. But housing is something that can really spur the economic growth. And in India, the accessibility of our own house is still far away. I think it's a very good move. It will help address the middle and the lower segment where lending does not necessarily happen with the government support. I think a very positive move and a good move for the financial sector.
And final question, which part or division of the consumer loan segment do you think will be an outperformer going forward this year on the backdrop of the interim budget so far?
So if you look at India, the finance minister talked about aspirational India. The finance minister talked about, putting more and more money in rural and other areas. So I think consumption as a pattern, if rural and urban both kick in, then cars, homes, travel, discretionary spends will take a little more time. But basic elements like a home, a car, a business, small business, office, etc., will increase. Indians suddenly have taken to spending in a big way, so credit cards and personal loans will continue, but consumption is linked to across the board products. All of them will be winners.
We're 2 women sitting here, and the budget was obviously delivered by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and she also announced this Lakpati Didi, that kind of a scheme for women, and a lot of Nari Shakti and youth also being included in the interim budget. So your thoughts on that?
She mentioned 9 crores women through self-help groups have benefited. It's actually been an explosion in the last few years, and we ourselves in our microfinance business, we only lend to women. I think it's very positive. I'm a great believer in diversity. It is 50% of our population. If we can make that population more productive, if we can help that population be more entrepreneurial and support them, just imagine what it will do to growth. Explosive.
Many thanks for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.